Hello there everybody, this is CP666 back with you, and what do you do when you're waiting for a very large number of videos to render? You swap hard drives between computers. Now, ordinarily I wouldn't be doing a video like this because I don't really like swapping hard drives around, but I have over here, and hopefully the camera has enough cord to reach over here, which it doesn't, but I can still do this. I have a 100 gigabyte. This is a 100 gig, 7200 RPM hard drive. It is higher performance than the 5400 RPM Seagate that's in there. And it would be a nice thing to have, plus it's only 100 gigabytes. I'll never use 320, which is not the 320 that are in here. So I'm going to put this drive in there, and I'm going to do a clean install of Windows, because there's not only some crap that I want to get rid of on this install, but there's also, Now you're probably wondering, well, why don't you just go ahead and try and clone the drive over, or shrink the partition? Well, shrinking the partition is not going to work, because Windows will not shrink the partition down. And cloning the drive I don't think would work, because we're going from a 320 gigabyte drive to a 100 gigabyte drive. And the disparity works when you're going from the smaller drive to the larger drive, but really doesn't work when you're going from the larger drive to the smaller drive. And I'd rather back up my data and perform a clean install of Windows than be up a creek with a turd for a paddle. And I'm probably sure that maybe about 2 of you are going to get that reference, but whatever. At least I tried, right? Oh yes, it is definitely going to take a while for that to happen, but I found something else that is moderately hilarious while going on YouTube. Take a look at what is going on with those 2 L's. Well, if I didn't bugger up the focus on the camera, maybe you'd be able to see it. Those are supposed to be 2 L's, and apparently they've been turned into one gigantic block. And I don't know why it's doing that. Apparently I can't select it. Can I select just one of those L's? Yes, I can, as you can see. I can select just one of those L's, but they get merged into one gigantic block. I'm not sure why it's doing that either. But I just found that moderately interesting. Alright, so that should be everything that I need to have backed up. Hopefully all the drivers are there and all the other crap is... Wow, excuse me. All the other stuff is there, and I can just close all this out. And we're going to shut the machine off. I'm going to allow it some time to cool down, because it is... If we take a look here, it's about 85 degrees, which is not exactly great. It starts off cool. It does start off cool, but once you start running programs, it gets hot, and the CPU cooling fan can't get it back down again. And I'm not exactly sure why that is. So I'm going to let it sit here, I'm going to let it cool down, and then we're going to change the hard drives out. Okay, you really don't need to see me do this, and because I've done it so many times before, but I'll show it to you anyway in case you haven't. What you want to do first is you want to remove the battery, so that gets rid of all sources of power. That way you can't accidentally power the machine on if you're trying to... Well, you're doing this and cause a disaster. There's a screw right here. It's a flathead. You can use... Well, actually, it's a flathead plus Phillips. So you could use a Phillips head, or you could use a flathead like I'm using. I find the flatheads easier to work with for this kind of thing. Not on the little tiny screws that you need to remove all the other things. Then what you want to do is you want to be very careful, but you want to remove this drive from its little place in the machine, and you want to get a screwdriver that is small enough to work with caddy screws, and I'm going to have to find one because I don't have it with me right now. Alright, so here's our screwdriver, and I want to say now, forgive the constant sniffling or sneezing or whatever that may or may not go on during this video. In the springtime, I have allergies to, seasonal allergies to some specific type of tree. I don't remember which one it is offhand. But in the fall time, I have allergies to a specific kind of grass. At least that's what I'm pretty sure it is. I don't think it's dust, because I rarely have these kinds of things happen during the summer and during the winter months. But there are 4 screws, or at least there better be 4 screws, otherwise somebody's been in your machine and they've wrecked it. Now, I should be doing this with a ESD wrist strap or whatever, if I were really, really conscious of that kind of stuff. I've found that handling computer components, as long as you don't touch the circuit boards, is fine if you're not grounded, but you should always be grounded, especially when changing RAM. Changing RAM modules, because you will be touching the circuit boards. Now let's grab a replacement drive here, which is in an electrostatic discharge protective bag thing. We're going to get it out of there. We're going to put it in the right way. This is the way that is. If you put it in like this, it won't work. You want to make sure that you put it in like that. Which may seem backwards at first, but that's the way the drive is supposed to go into the machine. And then making sure that you don't lose these screws or throw them on the ground like a real pro. You want to put these screws back into the unit. I won't make you sit through this. Just as a caution here, make sure that you use a screwdriver tip, if I can show you this stupid tip. Yeah, the camera won't focus on it. Make sure that you use a tip that is small enough or big enough, or whatever the right term for it is, to work with these kinds of screws, because you don't want to strip those screw heads out. That will really ruin your day. And also make sure that you don't cross-thread screws. If you don't know what cross-threading screws is, I don't know if it's the right term, but go ahead and look it up. Then you want to take the drive that you've just inserted, insert it in upside down. If you can even insert it, which you should be able to if you did this right. Hopefully I put it in the right way. I should have put it in the right way. I wouldn't have. Doggone it, put it in the wrong way. Okay, so you put it in this way. The drive will be upside down when you put it into the machine. Or maybe it won't be. I guess it really depends on the drive. Although, no it doesn't. Or does it? No, it really doesn't. It doesn't depend on the drive. You want to put it in so that the drive is facing upside down. That's just the way it is. Don't ask me why IBM or Lenovo did it that way. They did. And that's alright. Because Apple did it too. And so did many other companies. Close up that screw, put your battery back in, and there's that. Lock it in place, and you're ready to test to make sure that your system is working perfectly fine. Alright, we should now be ready for a power-up test. Let's insert the Windows 8 disk, which by the way is legal. It was built from a product key because the original disk failed. Let's power it up. That blinking light refers to the CD-ROM drive. Entering BIOS setup utility. That's what I want to do. Oh dear. Doesn't seem as though it wants to go into the BIOS. There we go. Oh, that's not really going to help me. Actually, is this in AHCI mode? No, it's not. Let's put it into AHCI mode. Before I even bother to install. Oops. I don't want that. I want startup. Boot up Hitachi HTS72. Yeah, that's what I want. Of course, nothing here is set up the way it's supposed to be. It's running on a completely different system than what it should. Oh dear, come on, I want to reboot the system and install... Oh, sound works. I want to reboot and I want to install Windows 8 on this drive and be done with it. It is really weird hearing those sounds on this ThinkPad once again. There we go. Now it's doing something. Did go so far as to initialize the keyboard. And apparently it will work. Windows setup. English United States, install this, hit next, install now. I find it odd how they use these, they still have the Aeroglass graphics in the Windows 8 setup, but yet the OS itself does not have Aeroglass. Oops, gotta enter a product key, so let's do that. Alright, I accept the license agreement. This is Windows 8 Pro, 32-bit. Can I delete this? I want to delete that partition. That's the IBM partition. Or no, it's not. This is the IBM partition. Oh, that's unallocated space. There we go. Create a new partition. Or don't create a new partition. Install to the unallocated space. That's what I want to do. Because I won't ever be using that recovery anyways, so whatever. There we go. That should be alright. Alright, let's customize these settings. No. Sure. Yes. Actually, no, I don't want that either. Don't send any of that junk. Sure. No. No. Then again, I don't care if you get this email address because it gets spammed. Anyways. I find the new way to use Windows very annoying, to say the very least. I find it funny how it moves it into the same corner every single time, and yet each individual corner does something different. This will take a few minutes. Okay, let's wait a few minutes. Can hear the fan on the system kick up, even though it doesn't do a very good job of doing, well, anything. The machine still gets quite warm in operation. I don't know if it's because this smaller cooler was not designed to use the higher performance chips. This is a T7700, so this is on the list of compatible chips, but I don't know. It's the highest end chip a T61 is rated for. Or the highest end chip that IBM or Lenovo lists as chips that are supported. I'm sure more chips are supported than just T-series, T70s. T7X100s. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning, and here I am making a video about, not only making a video, but I'm installing Windows on a PC. This is funny. I should be in bed. I really am tired. Let's start. Woohoo. None of my programs are installed. Oh, that's alright. Who cares about those? Gotta love little Windows problems like this. Couldn't connect to the internet. Really? Well, then why can I load the Google page? Alright, let's do it manually, man. Alright, now let's try the offline installer, which is right here. Obviously, it's a lot bigger, so it's going to take a lot longer to download. And I'm also running Windows Update in the background. Alright, let's go ahead and try it. See if it works. I'm cautiously optimistic. Set up my sounds too. Except, let's see if it works. Oops. I guess it needs that then. That's stupid. Download and install. It shouldn't need to download anything. It's right there. Whatever. Yeah, this is probably not going to work either. Windows needs to reboot your PC. Well, let's wait for the Windows updates to finish before we allow it to reboot. And program updates. Holy crap. Let's deal with all these. Hopefully they all work, and they all work pretty quickly. A lot of these I'll never use. In fact, I believe most of them I'll never end up using because I don't have a webcam. I'll never use the video program. Bing will never get used because Bing sucks. Your PC will automatically restart in 2 days. Well, it will restart now because I have to do this anyway. Alright. By the way, just so you know, it is the next day because it would have been about 2 o'clock in the morning last night when I finally got to a point where I stopped. And contrary to popular belief, I do need some kind of sleep. Yeah. Come on. Oops. We're on fan level 7. because otherwise it doesn't move enough air to cool the CPU. Alright, so let's run the local install, because for whatever reason it doesn't work when you run it from the disk. Let's choose a complete installation, because that's the nice thing to do to it. Install. Should move by a lot faster because it's going off of the hard drive. Or maybe not. Alright, completed successfully. We can now delete that. And for whatever reason it won't be in there. I don't know what's wrong. It doesn't work properly or something like that. There you can see all the stuff for it though. So everything is there. Empty the recycle bin. From all that crap. That should be everything that I need. Oops. I went to go put the disc back in its case, and I broke it. So it looks like I'm going to have to get a new case. That's more like it. And it even matches the color of my my bedspread. Interesting. Alright, we need to install the flash plug-in. Oops. Really? I don't believe that. Oh God, not McAfee. Takes forever too. It's not that fast. I don't know why it has to download, because it's an installer, not a downloader. Right, finish should be done. Let's go back to where we were. Shouldn't complain about needing a flash plug-in now. Yes, that's good. Now I'm going to install the add-ons that I want. Ad block. Turn that off. That should all be good. Yeah, flash block. It's a good thing to have. And no script. Flash block, all this stuff, yes, it's good. Change the options here. Whitelist should be anything on YouTube. Actually, I won't make a whitelist. I will just go ahead and do that. So that's all good. Now I just have to set my browser up the way I want and everything will be done. So I'm going to basically end this here right now. No, I won't. You're probably wondering to yourself right now, gee, why did you downgrade from a 320 gigabyte drive to a 100 gigabyte drive? Well, there are two reasons. Number one, I'll never use the whole 320 gigabytes on this system. At least I don't ever plan to. So it was terribly underutilized. And number 2, the drive that I put in, the 100 gigabyte, is a 7200 RPM drive versus the 5400 RPM that the other Seagate drive that I pulled out is. And plus, this drive is not a replacement. The Seagate is a replacement for a replacement. So, there you go. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below. And this is CP666 signing off. I hope to see you next time. Until then.